The room fell silent as Marcus Carter stood over Damon, the Mountain, Pierce, the 6'8" former MMA fighter who'd been taunting him all morning. Nobody was laughing anymore. 5 seconds ago, Pierce had been flexing for the crowd of elite security professionals. Now he was flat on his back, staring at the ceiling, wondering what had just happened. If you're just joining us on this journey, stick around, because what this single father of two did next changed everything. Hit that like button and subscribe to see more untold stories of everyday heroes defying all odds. 3 weeks earlier, Marcus had been sitting at his kitchen table, staring at an overdue electric bill. The dim light from his laptop illuminated the worry lines on his face as his fingers hovered over the keyboard, searching job listings for the 5th time that day. At 42, the former military specialist had been struggling to find stable work that would allow him to be there for his daughters after his wife's death 2 years ago. "Dad?" Emma's voice broke through his thoughts. His 15-year-old stood in the doorway of their small apartment kitchen, hair still wet from the shower, school uniform slightly wrinkled. "Is everything okay?" Marcus forced a smile. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just looking at some job opportunities." Emma wasn't fooled. She'd grown perceptive beyond her years since losing her mother. "We're behind on bills again, aren't we?" "Don't worry about it," Marcus said, closing the laptop. "I've got a few promising leads." This wasn't entirely a lie. Earlier that day, his old military buddy Jackson had called with information about a high-paying security position, personal bodyguard for Elliot Warren, CEO of Warren Technologies. The pay was triple what Marcus had made at his last job, but the competition would be fierce. Every ex-military and security professional in the tri-state area would be after this position. "I made breakfast for Lily," Emma said, mentioning her 9-year-old sister. "And I packed her lunch." Marcus felt a pang of guilt. Emma had been taking on more responsibilities than any teenager should have to. "You shouldn't have to do that, Em. That's my job." Emma shrugged. "We're a team, right? That's what Mom always said." The mention of Sarah made Marcus's chest tighten. His late wife had been their family's backbone. Smart, resilient, loving, she had made their modest life feel rich. Cancer had taken her quickly, leaving Marcus to raise their daughters alone while battling grief and financial insecurity. "Right," he said, standing to hug his daughter. "We're a team." Later that day, after dropping the girls at school, Marcus called Jackson back. "I'll do it," he said. "When's the tryout?" "Saturday, 8 a.m. sharp. Meridian Training Center downtown," Jackson replied. "Fair warning, these guys are serious contenders. Ex-Special Forces, private security veterans. And Warren's current head of security is a real hard-ass named Victor Kane. I need this job, Jack. I'll be there." The following Saturday arrived too quickly. Marcus kissed his sleeping daughters' foreheads before dawn and left a note explaining he had a job interview. His neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez had agreed to check on them until he returned. The Meridian Training Center was an industrial-looking building with reinforced doors and tinted windows. Inside, about 30 men and 2 women milled around a large training floor equipped with various exercise stations, combat rings, and obstacle courses. Most were younger than Marcus, with the sculpted physiques of professional athletes or the hard edges of career military. Marcus, in contrast, looked ordinary. His 6-foot frame carried muscle, but it wasn't showy. Years of real combat had given him functionality over form. His short-cropped hair was graying at the temples, and the simple black t-shirt and cargo pants he wore hadn't come from any tactical outfitter's catalog, they were from the clearance rack at the department store. As he signed in, he noticed the sideways glances. A group of younger men near the water cooler chuckled as they watched him. Marcus recognized the type, gym warriors who mistook strength for capability, aggression for skill. "Name?" asked a stern-faced woman at the registration desk. "Marcus Carter." She checked her tablet. "Military background?" 14 years. Army Special Forces, then private contractor for 3 years. Recent experience, she asked, not looking up. Marcus hesitated. I've been working in construction and security consulting for the past 5 years. Family situation required a more predictable schedule. Now she did look up, her expression making it clear what she thought of his chances. Behind him, a deep voice boomed, "Well, look what we got here. Daddy Daycare decided to play with the big boys today." Marcus turned to face Damon Pierce, whose reputation preceded him. After washing out of professional fighting due to repeated rule violations, Pierce had made a name in executive protection by being intimidating rather than effective. "Pierce," Marcus acknowledged with a nod, refusing to engage. "Shouldn't you be at a PTA meeting or something?" Pierce continued, drawing laughs from his entourage. "This isn't the place for weekend warriors trying to supplement their child support payments." Marcus simply turned back to the registration desk, collected his participant number, and moved toward the assembly area. He had nothing to prove to these men, at least not yet. At precisely 8 a.m., a door opened, and 3 people entered: Elliot Warren himself, a slim man with intelligent eyes behind designer glasses, his current chief of security, Victor Kane, whose vigilant gaze immediately began assessing everyone in the room, and Jackson, who gave Marcus a subtle nod. "Gentlemen, and ladies," Warren began, his voice carrying authority without volume. "Thank you for coming. As you know, I'm seeking to expand my security detail with individuals who demonstrate exceptional capability. This isn't about who can bench press the most or who has the most impressive resume. I need people who can think, adapt, and execute under pressure." Kane stepped forward. "Today's assessment will test your physical conditioning, tactical decision-making, and protective instincts. We'll start with basic physical benchmarks, move to combat scenarios, and finish with situational responses. Any questions?" The room remained silent. "Then let's begin," Kane said, consulting his clipboard. "First phase, physical assessment. Stations are marked. Rotate through them as directed." The first phase was straightforward, standard physical tests measuring strength, speed, endurance, and agility. Marcus performed well, though not spectacularly. He completed each task efficiently, conserving energy while others seemed intent on showing off. Pierce, in particular, made a show of everything, loudly announcing his rep counts and finishing times. His physical capabilities were undeniably impressive, but his constant need for attention drew eye rolls from Kane. During a brief water break, Marcus checked his phone to find a text from Emma: "Good luck, Dad. You've got this." The simple message steeled his resolve. He wasn't here to impress anyone but the 2 people who mattered most to him. The second phase involved combat scenarios, both armed and unarmed. Participants were paired against each other in the training ring, with judges scoring technique, control, and effectiveness. Marcus won his first 3 matches handily, using economy of movement and leverage rather than brute force. His approach drew attention from Warren, who watched with increasing interest. As the field narrowed, Marcus found himself paired with a former Navy SEAL named Rodriguez. The match was close, with Rodriguez nearly securing a submission before Marcus reversed position and forced a tap-out. Pierce, meanwhile, was dominating his opponents through sheer aggression and power. After defeating his semi-final opponent, he pointed at Marcus across the room. "You're next, old man. Hope those kids have someone else to make their lunch tomorrow." When Kane announced the final combat pairing, Marcus versus Pierce, the room buzzed with anticipation. David versus Goliath, with Pierce playing the heavy favorite. As they approached the ring, Pierce leaned in close to Marcus. "I heard about your wife," he said quietly. "Shame she's not around to see you embarrass yourself. Maybe after I get this job, I'll stop by and check on your daughters. They might need a real man around." Something cold and hard settled in Marcus's chest. He said nothing, simply meeting Pierce's gaze with a calm that seemed to unnerve the larger man. Warren and Kane took positions at opposite sides of the ring. "Standard rules," Kane announced. "Clean techniques only. Match ends with a tap out, a 10 count, or my intervention. Begin when ready." Pierce immediately charged forward, looking to overwhelm Marcus with his superior size and strength. Marcus sidestepped, allowing Pierce's momentum to carry him past. Frustrated, Pierce turned and launched a series of powerful strikes. Marcus blocked or evaded each one, conserving energy while Pierce began to breathe heavily. "Stop dancing and fight, you coward," Pierce growled, lunging again. This time, Marcus didn't retreat. Instead, he stepped into Pierce's attack, using the larger man's forward momentum against him. What happened next occurred so quickly that many observers missed the actual technique: a perfectly timed redirect, a shift in balance, and a precise application of leverage. Pierce, who had been charging forward with all his considerable mass, suddenly found himself airborne, then flat on his back. The impact drove the air from his lungs. Before he could recover, Marcus had secured a joint lock that left Pierce completely immobilized. The room fell silent. 5 seconds ago, Pierce had been flexing for the crowd. Now he was helpless, his face contorting as he realized he couldn't break free. "Yield," Marcus said quietly. Pride kept Pierce struggling for a few more seconds before pain forced him to tap the mat repeatedly. Marcus released him immediately and stood, offering a hand to help Pierce up. Pierce slapped it away, rolling to his feet with a murderous glare. "You got lucky," he spat. Marcus simply turned away, walking toward the edge of the ring where Warren was watching with an expression of intrigued respect. "That wasn't luck," Warren commented as Marcus approached. "That was experience. Where did you learn that particular technique?" "Afghanistan," Marcus replied simply. "Sometimes the biggest threats are the easiest to redirect if you understand physics and human psychology." Warren nodded thoughtfully, then glanced at Kane, who made a note on his clipboard. Behind them, Pierce had recovered enough to start complaining loudly. "This is bullshit. That wasn't a fair fight. He used some kind of trick move." Kane turned to him with cold eyes. "There are no trick moves in real combat, Mr. Pierce, only effective ones and ineffective ones. Yours proved ineffective." The final phase of the tryout involved situational response scenarios. Participants were presented with various security threats and evaluated on their decision-making and protective instincts. Marcus excelled here, demonstrating not just tactical knowledge but a thoughtful approach to risk assessment. While other candidates defaulted to aggression, Marcus showed judgment, knowing when force was necessary and when de-escalation was the better option. In the final scenario, candidates had to extract a VIP, played by Jackson, from a hostile environment. Pierce, who had squeaked into the final round despite his combat loss, opted for a shock and awe approach, using maximum force against all role-playing threats. Marcus, in contrast, identified the primary threats, neutralized them efficiently, and created a secure exit route while minimizing collateral damage. His approach was so effective that Kane stopped the scenario early, nodding with approval. As the candidates gathered for the final evaluation, Warren addressed them. "Thank you all for your participation today. Each of you has demonstrated admirable qualities. However, the position I'm offering requires a unique combination of physical capability, tactical judgment, and personal integrity." He paused, scanning the group. "While we'll be considering several of you for my security team, I've made my decision regarding the chief bodyguard position." Pierce stepped forward confidently, adjusting his shirt to emphasize his muscular build. Warren smiled slightly. "Mr. Carter, would you accept the position as my personal security chief?" A murmur ran through the group. Pierce's face flushed dark red. "This is ridiculous." Pierce erupted. "You're choosing a washed-up dad over a professional? I've protected celebrities, politicians. And you've been fired by most of them," Kane interjected coldly. "We did our homework, Mr. Pierce." Your references were illuminating. Warren turned back to Marcus. The position includes a flexible schedule that can accommodate family responsibilities. Kane tells me you have 2 daughters. Marcus nodded, suddenly finding it hard to speak around the lump in his throat. Yes, sir. 15 and 9. Perfect, Warren said. My wife runs an education foundation that offers scholarships. I believe we can work something out there as well. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Mr. Carter? Marcus shook his hand firmly. We do, sir. Thank you. As the other candidates dispersed, some offering congratulations while others, particularly Pierce and his friends, departed with bitter comments, Jackson approached Marcus. Told you had a shot, Jackson said, clapping him on the shoulder. Warren values substance over show. Always has. I still can't believe it, Marcus admitted. This changes everything for us. For what it's worth, Kane said, joining them, it wasn't a difficult decision. Some men train to look dangerous. That was stupid of them, Emma declared. Being a dad is your superpower. As Marcus hugged his daughter, he realized she was right. The skills that had won him the job today, patience, observation, the ability to remain calm under pressure, knowing when to act decisively, were the same skills he'd been honing as a single father. The years he'd worried were making him soft had actually been making him stronger in ways that mattered more than muscle. The next morning, Marcus Carter woke up not just as a father, but as a man who had reclaimed his purpose. As he made breakfast for his daughters, his phone pinged with a message from Warren, car arriving at 8:30. First day. Bring your A game. Marcus smiled. For the first time in 2 years, the future looked bright again. He had protected his family the way he knew best, not with displays of strength, but with quiet, determined action when it mattered most. If you're still with me in this journey, remember that true strength isn't always visible at first glance. Sometimes it's found in the most unassuming people, like a single dad who refused to be defined by others' expectations. If this story touched your heart, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about everyday heroes finding their way against all odds. The strongest people aren't always the ones who make the most noise, sometimes they're the quiet ones with everything to lose and the courage to step into the ring anyway.